We go. Well, hello everyone. This is Payman Javadi. The program is Topics with Mr. Javadi. The reason for that being that I used to teach school for many years, and now I'm retired and I'm doing this, YouTube programming. Today I have a very special guest. We're very blessed to have this guest. His name is Dereck Leslie, right?
Correct.
Uh, Dereck, welcome to our program. Thank you for joining us. Um, you are, if I get this correctly, you are the director of education in the White Mountain area. Is that right?
Correct. For the White Mountain Apache tribe.
White Mountain Apache tribe, yeah. And you are, for those who may not know this, that's in Arizona. It's right around, it's close to where John Wayne had his ranch for years. So there's a little bit of fame attached to it, but you are another fame attached to it. You're close to Sholo, you're close to Snowflake, Pine Top, that region
Correct.
in the middle of the state, which is absolutely beautiful. I used to live in Ganado, northeast Arizona, and I traveled through the region where Dereck is right now many times. Didn't quite acquaint myself with the Apache tribe, unfortunately. I should have. But I traveled many times through that area on the way to Phoenix and various other things. But anyway, beautiful area, Dereck. Beautiful area. I'm jealous. You're living in a gorgeous, picturesque area. Those mountains are beautiful. They're timeless. But anyway, welcome to the program, Dereck. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to be where you are today?
Sure.
Yeah.
Uh, Dagote, my name is Dereck Leslie. As he mentioned, I am currently the Tribal Education Director for the White Mountain Apache Tribe here in White River, Arizona. I oversee the tribe's education contract with the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And so I oversee about 14 staff members along across five different programs. And so I oversee that. A little bit about myself. I was born and raised here in White River. I grew up, attended the local school up through eighth grade. And then I went to an off-reservation boarding school in Salem, Oregon, and graduated from there, Chemawa Indian High School, attended all 4 years. And then I stayed in Salem, Oregon to obtain my associate degree from Chemeketa Community College. And then I went on to Grand Canyon University, where I got my undergrad in psychology.
Well,
And then I started working for the tribe. I worked as with my tribe's vice chairwoman. I worked at our local boarding school as a dorm staff. I worked with Johns Hopkins University for 3 years, doing research on a double-blinded clinical trial on a new pneumococcal vaccine. And then I spent a year at the local behavioral health authority, handling all of the off-reservation referrals. And then I came over here to the tribal education department, where I became the higher education coordinator overseeing the tribe scholarship program. So I did that until about 2021 when I was appointed the interim education director. And then I applied, interviewed, and was given the job officially in, I think, 22. I've been here since then. I serve multiple boards and committees. I serve on the Northland Pioneer College, the local community college governing board. I serve on the tribe's health board, the tribe's Fort Apache Heritage Foundation. I serve on a few advisory roles for the National Indian Education Association. And then I also serve on Nava or Summit Healthcare's IRB. And so I do some research, review research protocols with Summit there in Cholo. And so I wear a whole wide range of hats.
yeah, no kidding. You have a lot of responsibilities, it sounds like. Well,
Yeah.
as they say, better you than me. A lot of responsibility there. Um, so academically speaking, academically speaking,
hmm
You've got the psychology degree. What is the highest degree that you have?
I think officially is the my bachelor's degree, my bachelor's of science in
Bachelor's degree.
psychology. I do have a graduate certificate in public health from Johns Hopkins University. And so I'm there I've been meaning to go back for my master's, and I've been on a 14-year break and I haven't gone back.
I totally understand. I get it. But hey, you do it through the labor that you do, and of course,
Mhm.
you're putting all that academia to use. You're using it in labor. It's not just about getting those paper degrees. It's also about using them. It's what you do with that degree that matters. It's what I believe. And so you're really, really utilizing those pieces of paper really well. So I'm very grateful for what you're doing. No, to me, you're the definition of success from what I'm seeing. Native American success. And let me say that again, Native American success. Because there's a lot of stereotypes about, I think, various types of people in this country, minorities in particular, that they're just stereotypes. And I think that in general, we come to find out no, you just do a little digging, you find out, and I mean little digging, not a lot. You don't really need a shovel for it. You just dig a little bit, and you find that there's a lot of success out there. And so part of what I'm trying to do is to show the positive, to show the success. And so talk to us a little bit about what that's meant for you and what you have seen with your own eyes in terms of that success I just talked about.
Sure. I think you're absolutely correct in that
Hmm.
there's a stereotype about my people, um, broadly speaking, Native Americans, that we are, for lack of better word, that we are always inebriated, that we are in the cycle of poverty, and that our education attainment levels are subpar at best. And so I think those are just qu- quickly thinking are some of the stereotypes that I see about my people in particular. But I think that that couldn't be further from the truth. And I think that it's starting to I mean it is true in some sense of the word, not all of it, but that's changing. And I think that it's important to highlight those changes that are evolving from Indian country. And Indian country just refers to all of the reservation lands in the United States.
You
And
bet. Yeah.
so it's definitely been an eye opener. I know that you know, I come from poverty. I come from poverty. I know what the culture of poverty is like. I know what it's all about. Growing up, I experienced it and I lived it. But early on, I made a decision, a conscious decision that I wanted a degree. I initially my goal was to become a licensed clinical social worker. And so that's why my bachelor's degree is in psychology. I thought that would be the best route to get my LCSW. And so, but life has a funny way of detouring you, and so that's what happened. But I always say that was my goal in life. I guess, and to your point, that I am using my psychology degree in various to various extents, and all the work that I do, interacting with people and situations that allow me to use my degree. But it's definitely success is I'm learning, especially in my current role as the tribal education director, that success means something different for all of us. And
Hmm.
so I think that it's important to know early on what success means to you. I never imagined that I would be the education director for my tribe. Like I said earlier, I come from this culture of poverty, and so
By the way, let me just hold you there for a minute. From the Zoom handshake to you for that success, for getting that job. That's wonderful.
yeah, thank you, thank you. I think that in junior high, thinking back to junior high, I was always ditching in junior high. I finished junior high in night school. I had, I threatened to assault one of my teachers, and at that point, I think the school's behavior team had had enough, and they gave me the ultimatum of either going to night school or expulsion. And
Mm,
so I was like, no, I don't want to be expelled. So I went with the night school option. And so I finished junior high and night school, which I think was the best thing that could have happened to me.
mm.
I remember sitting in night school and thinking, I don't want to live this way. And so I consciously made a decision to not attend school on the reservation with the same circle of friends that I knew I would be hanging out with. And so, I realized that that trajectory that I ended up taking, my life's journey, um, saved me in a lot of ways. And so I laugh and I think I had to finish my eighth grade project on Galileo. I remember that really well. So I had to do all of my research in night school, but I was able to do that. And it's funny because even though I was always ditching and taking off from school, I was always reading. And so when I graduated from eighth grade, I had the second highest reading points
Wow,
for
wow.
grading. And the behavior team was like, "How is that possible?" I said, "Well, I had to do something when I was ditching or on suspension." And so I think that that was definitely a journey, but I think that it's a journey that I had to take in order to get me to where I'm currently at. And so in this role that I'm in, I'm able to advocate for students who are like who share my life story and that the
Hmm.
behavior issues and the defiance that they exhibit, I'm able to say I was there and never did I ever imagine that I would be the education director and serving in a delegation to Washington, D.C. I forgot to mention that I'm also on the state of Arizona's Indian Education Advisory Council. So
Wow.
every time I go there, I think about my journey. And then I also serve on the Tribal Interior Budget Council with the Bureau of Indian Affairs and Bureau of Indian Education. So every time I go there, I think what would little Dereck do in junior high, and what resource did he need? What resources did should he have received? And so I usually use that a lot of times when I'm advocating for more resources for education and Indian education more broadly.
Well, what's impressive to me, and I sensed it when I called you, what is impressive to me is that you overcame those difficulties. You overcame them. You didn't just say, oh, poor me and woe me and all that stuff. You overcame them. You you got up on your feet and you worked at it, and here you are. Look at all the look at all the things you're doing. Look at all the success you're having, and that's just an amazing thing. But it just comes to the point of when I was teaching, I remember this, that everyone is capable. It's just how they are reached. It's how they are helped. And but everyone is capable. I taught at an alternative school also, just very recently is where I retired actually. And in that alternative school, I could see the points you were making just now as I was thinking about them. That society tends to judge, especially like alternative type kids, and because they don't necessarily fit the regular mold, but they come to that school and by golly, they get it done. They get it done. And so, the setting, how you help people, all of those types of things make a difference, don't they? You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I
Yeah.
think that, in Indian country in particular, and I think that I see similarities across different, the various different people of color, is
Mhm.
that, and in society more generally, that, in Indian country, we operate from this whole community level perspective. And so I think that the concept of, it takes a village to raise a child couldn't be more true in Indian country. And so that's what I always think. And I often struggle with this whole idea of like, well, why am I the exception when some of my classmates weren't so fortunate? And I
Hmm.
do a lot of self-reflection on
Hmm.
what was different for me than for everyone else. And oftentimes what I seem to go back to is, when I was younger, my parents, I don't know if you remember Hooked on Phonics.
Yeah, yeah, I do.
I had to read. I
Yeah.
my dad would not let me go have fun unless I read whatever many books that he decided to do. So, I remember from an early age, hooked on phonics. I
Wow.
remember doing I don't know if you remember the national highlight, that magazine where it came out, the education
Yeah.
magazine. And so I remember getting that monthly subscription from my parents. And so I remember I was so excited. And so for me, that's what was different than a lot of my peers was the hooked on phonics portion. And so I credit that a lot for some of for where I'm at in a lot of ways. And but then
Mm.
I also think that just the whole environment that I was in, I like I said, I come from the culture of poverty. I know what it's like to go without food. I know what it's like to be surrounded by people who are intoxicated. And so I remember early on thinking, this can't be life forever. There has to be
Mhm.
something different. And so I remember
Yeah.
making up my mind that I didn't want to perpetuate that lifestyle. And so I still want to do whenever I go back for my graduate degrees. I think that's something that I want to explore more, and is why am I different, and why are my peers who are successful, however way they define it, why are we not another reservation statistic? And so I think that would be
Mm.
something that I want to explore more and see what the different themes come from that sort of exploration.
What matters, bottom line, is you're successful. And that's what speaks louder than anything else. And so the more of you out there that are like that, hallelujah, the better.
Mhm.
And so I wanted you to sort of talk about that a little bit in terms of the generality of the Native American success. What have you seen that shows that, somebody who went to military and went up the ranks, or somebody who became a mechanic and was very good at it, somebody who opened up their own business? I mean, there's lots of examples, I'm sure, but I'm going to let you comment on that a little bit.
Sure. Again, I need to do more exploration, but what it seems like is from an early stage, we all decide that we don't want to perpetuate that lifestyle. And I think more broadly, we all have this why question, this why about what we're doing, like why we want to be successful. And I think it comes down to wanting to create a better community for future generations. And I think in listening to everyone that that who is successful, they always say, I want it to come home to improve the quality of life for everyone. And I guess it's this whole concept of extending the ladder and helping everyone else climb up along with.
Right, right.
And so I think it comes down to that, is they all didn't want to perpetuate their lifestyle, and they all wanted to give back to our community. And so regardless of whatever reservation whatever tribe you're talking about reservation, it's always that we want to improve the quality of life for everyone, and we want to take everyone with us up the ladder, to come with us to know that there's much more to life than what you live in, and what the statistics of our people are. And so I think that's a common one. And I mean, even just outside of Indian country, if you look at the people who are successful, for the most part, it seems that they want to improve the quality of life for those around them. And
Yeah.
so I think it's important to remember when you are navigating your life journey, to always remember your why. Like, why are you doing this? And why do you want to get to your goal? And whatever your why is, it's important to not forget that and always strive to be the best version of yourself for for your whole why.
Yeah, and of course we know just by fame, we know, like I know the mayor of Winslow, I understand, is Native American.
Hmm.
And the mayor of Durango, Colorado,
Hmm.
is Native American. Um, Ben Nighthorse Campbell was a very well-known senator from Colorado, and of course, in Hollywood, you've got is it Wes Trudy? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in Dances with Wolves and
Hmm.
um, Last of the Mohicans and all those movies. Just a tough actor, great actor. Also with Al Pacino in Heat, the one about you know bank robberies and stuff. Great actor. He was playing the police officer. Um, but I mean, you've got all these examples. I think there was once in rock and roll history, if I'm not mistaken, the group Blackfoot. They're kind of an offshoot of Leonard Skinner from Florida.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think they had two members, drummer and the bass player. I think they were Native American. I think they were from the Florida tribes.
Oh, the
Uh,
Seminole.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, yeah, it's out there. I mean, you look for it, it's out there. And
Yeah,
if yeah,
I think you bring up a good point too, is
yeah,
um that it's important to have role models who show you what success looks like, whatever that success is, whether it's in
whatever it is, yeah,
education,
exactly.
Hollywood, or whatever, just to have those positive role models to aspire to be like.
Hmm. And of course, our beloved Gorman, right?
Hmm.
The visual artist, who's passed away.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. Go ahead.
And I thought back to like even former Secretary of Interior Deb Haaland. She's the one who first who I heard that concept of, she said all I'm doing is putting down the ladder and I'm taking as much people with me up as possible. And so I just thinking about her, even like her and the challenges she had to overcome to get to where she's at. And now she's running for governor of New Mexico.
Wow. And governor of New Mexico, and
Yeah,
and she's Native American.
yeah.
Wow. Goes on and on. That's wonderful. No, I love to hear that. I love to hear stories like that. And of course, the other thing that I've noticed is people like yourself who have the degrees. Like I remember a Victor Benally. He was my principal in Ganado. Had a master's in education, I think.
Hmm.
And we had a teacher there. We called her Dr. Perkins, and well, that's because I think she had a doctorate.
Hmm.
And so a lot of you who I have noticed, like Dr. Riazi, who have their degrees, they have their doctorates, they have their masters, they have their bachelors, they have their specialties. There's a lot of you that are like that, and so that speaks to me of your view of the value of the academics. Would that be right?
Yes, I think that I know. I think we all knew that education was an equalizer, that it
Mm-hmm.
was the key to opening opportunities that would not otherwise be available to us.
Yeah.
And I think that it's interesting because there's this whole, I'm sure you're aware about the whole concept of decolonizing education, and I often struggle with that. I'm not a proponent of that concept because I
Mm.
think that it's here. I mean, unless you want to go back to your ancestral ways of living, which is not possible.
Yeah.
But I do believe in just indigenizing education and braiding in the different
Hmm.
traditional values from your respective tribal community.
Well, and it's just like I'm from Iran. I was born in Iran,
Mhm.
but I'm a U.S. citizen. I'm
Mhm.
an American citizen, and I have to go forward. What
Mhm.
else? What else can I do?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can't go
I
backwards.
yeah, I have to go forward. So I look at that, and I look at people like yourself who helped me in recognizing the value of learning, the value of working with others, and looking for the positive, looking
Mhm,
for the positive.
mhm.
So tell me about the state of education in White River right now. What is it like? Graduation rate and things like that. Tell me about that.
Sure. I don't have the graduation rates right off the top, but I do
Oh no,
know.
I mean it doesn't have to be perfect, but just in
Yeah,
general. Yeah,
yeah. It's
yeah.
actually improving. Our public schools, our grades have gone up. COVID obviously threw us off,
All
because
of
of
us. Yeah.
the lack of access to laptops and internet, reliable internet. But since then, we're gradually recovering, and one of our schools was a few points off from being an A school. And
Hmm.
so all of our grades, all of our schools for the most part have gone up, and so we're definitely improving in that area. And so I was excited when I seen the last round of school report cards, and I was like, man, I think we were like 2 points off from an A school at one of our elementary schools. And so we're definitely making strides to improve our schools, which is going to be a new challenge because we're so
Yeah.
used to being the school improvement grants funding and whatnot. So it's learning how to navigate without those, um, what are they called? Training wheels. I guess is the best analogy. So it's exciting time to see the quality of education improve for our community. And so we have a lot of student success that we celebrate. We have a lot of different goals and achievements that our students go through. I just was it in May, I think it was, I was attending our federal PAC, which I'm a part of as the education director. And one of our former students, one of our tribal members, came to present, and I found out that he was working at NASA, and I was like, "Oh wow, that's so cool!" And so I tried convincing him to come speak at our 4.0 banquet, but there was a conflict in his schedule, and so
Yeah.
he talked about his journey about being growing up here in White River, being a tribal member, and now overseeing a lot of the different programs at NASA or for NASA. And so it was interesting. And so definitely things are improving. We have a long way to go still, obviously. But I know one of our big goals is to language retention. And so looking at different ways of making sure that our Apache language doesn't die anymore, that the interest in speaking the language increases among our students. And so last month, was it last month? And yeah, last month I was in Connecticut for the National Congress of American Indian. And so while I was there, I had to zoom into our tribal council meeting, and they were able to approve my request to start an elders council to start certifying Apache language teachers for our public schools here in Arizona. And so I haven't finalized that draft of what that process is going to look like, but it was exciting to know that we're making a step in the right direction and
You
getting
bet.
our certified Apache language teachers.
Hmm. No, and that's important. I still speak Turkish and Farsi
Oh, okay.
and English, but I grew up with Turkish and Farsi, so I
Yeah.
I I value those. I don't think I should forget about them. Um, and yeah, and there's a balance there that I think you know what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
Balance between knowing your language and excelling in right here in U.S., which is where we're all from now. We're all living here now, so I think you get that, and I appreciate that. But I appreciate what you're saying. I think that's very important. Culture, very important. Knowing who you are, very important. In the United States right now, identity, and I don't want to get into it too much, but that's
Mhm.
become kind of a problematic issue, it seems to me. And at least to me, part of the solution seems to be knowing who you
Mhm.
are and where you come from and all of that stuff. So, but anyway, more about that at a different discussion. But tell us a little bit about well, the college attendance and going to military. I mean, I assume your kids do something after graduation.
Yeah.
It's either military or college or, the workforce. Talk about that a little bit.
Sure. And
Yeah.
so I know that our military enlistment is significant. I know a lot of our students will ship out to basic training and then into their specialization afterwards, but I don't
Mhm.
have exact numbers, but I do know we have quite a few of those um, some of our tribal students attending military. I do
Mhm.
know that our higher education rates are increasing. We are seeing a lot of our students attend post-secondary schools. And a lot, and in fact, more and more of our students are attending the Ivy Leagues, which I was pleasantly surprised with.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, and so
Ivy League. Now tell me
yeah.
tell me some examples of those schools. What are they?
Sure. Sure. We had we have two of our students currently at Columbia.
Oh,
And then we had one at UPenn, and then we have one currently at Cornell. And so that's a first for us. And I know last year we had, I want to say 8 to 12 doctoral students who are on our program. And so I was like, oh wow, that's so neat. And that's a good problem. That's a good situation. I don't want to say a problem, but that's a good place to be. And I know that we had two of our students graduate from ASU with their doctoral in behavioral health. We had one complete her doctoral in Indigenous health from the University of North Dakota. And then we
wow.
have one student who just defended his dissertation 2 weeks ago from University of North Dakota's Indigenous Health Program. So we had another graduate from there. We have one in the queue to graduate from North Dakota as well. And then we have one, two, or three from in Grand Canyon University getting their doctorals in education. And then we had one complete their PhD in physical therapy in Nebraska. And so we have a lot of our students getting advanced degrees. And so that's
That's just
exciting.
fabulous. That's fabulous.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's worth
And
celebrating. That's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then as
Wow.
far as our workforce is concerned, so I did a lot of work during my time as the higher education coordinator with working with Salt River projects and getting our tribe is finalizing its water rights with the federal government, and so we're supposed to be starting the construction of our minor flat dam. So that's potential. We're trying to prepare for that. Our Indian Health Service hospital is we're getting a new hospital, bigger hospital. So we're trying to get our workforce ready for those different projects that are on the pipeline for start here soon. And so I know a lot of our local workforce are government, either tribal government, federal government, or state government. And then we have a lot of people working in the private sector, in the border towns. And so it's just a matter of finding more economic development opportunities to bring here and so we can have our people employed and contribute to their greater good.
Derek, so many overwhelming pieces of news. I am overwhelmed with happiness. It's just, I mean, that is just awesome. That is terrific. Thanks for sharing all of that and showing us that that is really true. Couple of more things, and then we'll wrap it up. Um, and I'll be in touch with you for more down the line. But tell us a little bit about people watching who may not be Native American. What do you want them to know about what it means to be a Native American? What does that term mean, and what do you want them to realize?
Sure. So I'm Apache first and foremost, and so I think when I say that, I mean that I come from a strong people. I come from a powerful lineage of warriors and medicine men and people who knew the land and were fiercely loyal to their family and their kinship, and so. that's what guides me in the work that I do today is this sort of this sense of community and kinship. And so when I say I'm Apache, I mean that I come from White River. I come from a tribal community, and yes, our my community has its fair share of reservation statistics, but in it, there's also beauty and there's strength that manifests itself in the different people who come from my community, who excel in the Western ways of schooling, who come home with advanced degrees and helps our people. When I say I'm Native American, I mean that I'm proud of who I am and where I come from. And so I know that often doesn't sit well with people because I like to remind them that, when my people, who I am as an Apache, predates the Constitution of the United States of America.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
we come
Yeah.
from a people who had commerce, people who were international traders before America was even established. But that's not to say that, that being American is something that I'm not proud of. I am. Um, my grandpa was he was a an Apache scout. I know that has negative connotations depending on who you talk to, but basically a lot of my people helped the U.S. government fight in the Apache wars. Um, Even before we were recognized as US citizens, my people have the distinction of having the largest recipients of the is it a Congressional Medal of Honors for a
Right.
lot of the people who fought in the Apache Wars. So my tribe has the distinction of the largest tribal recipients of that award. And so I think it always fascinates me and saddens me at the same time knowing that my people helped fight for a country that when they weren't even recognized
Yeah.
as citizens, they were considered less than. But I think that just goes to show our commitment to community and family. And so I know that there's a lot of history there. And I always like to share that distinction that my tribe has the highest recipients of that Congressional Medal is it freedom or honor or whatever that is?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we proudly serve. I know Native Americans have the highest percentage of active military and veterans. And so we love our country and we will gladly defend it. And so we are a proud people.
No, that's beautiful. And there's something about this America that makes me love it. Um, I can't explain it, but it just makes me love it. I love the mountains. I love the plains. I love high desert. All the beauty that it has in the landscape. It draws me, and I don't know why it draws me. It just does. But and I love the people like yourself. My neighbors, and there's some really great people living here. And I think we just need to, show the positive, look at the positive, highlight the positive, because there's just a lot of it there. So, and I feel like you've really done a good job of that today. So, thank you for sharing with us all of those things. Um, what are your needs? Uh, and I'm sure there are some. What are the needs you have in your education status there?
I think that for us, just I think overall,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just an understanding that my people learn a little differently than
Mm-hmm.
a lot of their counterparts, but we're still learning. I think that for so long we've had this negative stereotype of how
Mm-hmm.
fast or not fast we're able to learn. And so I think I just ask for understanding from our educators. Um, the unfortunate reality of reservation life sometimes comes out negatively when dealing with standardized test scores. And so
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
know I'm part of a national discussion about just what that means for standardized testing. And so I just understanding and knowing that, to your point and something that you stated was we have more in common than when we don't. And so we are human beings. We learn differently, but we love our country. And I think that it's easy to say funding but I also know that money doesn't solve everything.
Yeah.
And obviously funding is always going to be an issue, but I think just overall understanding that we want to learn, but we have a slower way of learning, our different way of learning than most people.
Well, when I worked at the alternative school, I learned that lesson that learning happens differently. One size doesn't necessarily fit all.
Mhm.
And I'm even of the opinion that vocational school should take place after a certain point because some kids, they like to work with tools, things like that. And that's not to look down on them, but I think it's just our society needs mechanics and plumbers and all those other things. They're just as valuable, I believe, as a Harvard graduate with a doctorate because everybody has a different talent.
I,
Everybody's gifted differently. But anyway, go ahead.
I couldn't agree more with that
Yeah,
concept, and I think
yeah,
that we all I think that now more than ever, those different types of trade and technical schools should be at the same level as university and college degrees.
yeah. No, I agree with you there. I agree with you there. So, people are watching. Some are thinking about coming out there and teaching, like I was thinking back in the very early '90s. Um, what's your advice to them? And then I'll ask you one more piece of advice, and we'll wrap up. Go ahead.
Okay, I think that it's a worthwhile endeavor to come and work in Indian country, but I think that it's also important to remember that things are just different here in Indian country. Um, Our communities are different. Our family dynamics are different. Athletics are different. I'm sure you know what res basketball looks like.
Yeah.
So I think that if you want to work in Indian country,
Yeah.
learn how to play basketball. And I think that'll be a way of connecting with your students in a different way. I know for here, us locally, res ball is a big thing. In fact, I forget how many years ago our high school girls basketball won back-to-back state championship
Wow.
in
Wow.
basketball. And so I know that even at one time we had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as our assistant basketball coach for the varsity boys. So he lived here in White River for a while. So we speak res basketball here. And I think that's true in almost all tribal communities, the language of res ball. And so I think that that's one way to connect with your students, and I think that it's worthwhile, and just be patient with us and we'll respond eventually.
That sounds great. And what about young people? There are some that I think watch this channel,
Mhm.
and let's say they're about to graduate high school or they have graduated high school about a year now, and they're just wondering, how to succeed and how to go forward. If they're thinking about going into the field of education, or if they're thinking about going in the field of psychology, or
Mhm.
really for any field for that matter, what would be your advice to them?
My advice to you would be don't be afraid to fail.
Hmm.
Learn to have curiosity in everything that you do. I think having that curiosity will serve you well, especially in classes that you're not familiar with or that aren't your strongest subject. Just being curious and asking questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question. Just in getting to know the content, and you'd be surprised of what you learn when you remain curious. I think that curiosity will take you far in life if you learn to hone into it and apply it in a positive way.
Well, Mr. Leslie, Director Leslie, I couldn't thank you enough. Really appreciate your time, your generosity with sharing with us this much today. And as I said, you're an example of success. I'm very thankful. And I hope you welcome the idea. We'll be in touch, and I'll uh, work with you more in the future.
Yeah, and what was your channel name again?
It's Topics with Mr. Javadi, Javadi.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
I had a few of my staff asked, so now I'll let them know.
All right, sounds good. Sounds good. Well, and everybody, thank you for watching. Please hit like and subscribe, like they say, and we'll just be at your service in the future. Thank you very much for watching.